The Sarasota County Bar Association is a proud partner in bringing you Law and Sarasota. With voluntary membership of over 1,000 lawyers and judges, the Sarasota County Bar Association serves its members and your community by advancing legal professionalism, promoting practice development, and fostering fellowship. Visit www.sarasotabar.com for more information and to use the online directory to find an attorney.
This program is brought to you by a grant from the Community Foundation of Sarasota County and the Sarasota County Bar Association. The Education Channel produces the program and broadcasts from its state-of-the-art campus on Beneva Road. They make this program possible. Welcome to Law in Sarasota. Every now and then, a program comes along that fulfills a critical community need that no other organization has addressed. We have the founder of such a program on our panel today. It's called Project 180, and its mission is to provide an immediate safety net for men released from Florida prisons and who intend to return to Sarasota County. This is a very difficult demographic to serve, yet Project 180, under the leadership of its CEO, Barbara Richards, has had remarkable success in stabilizing offenders' lives. Project 180 has provided reentry services that support and help these men become productive and law-abiding citizens. The job is not without its challenges. So let's see how these challenges are met. Welcome, Barbara Richards.
Thank you, Judge.
So tell me, how did you get interested in this?
The honest-to-God truth is that I was driving down the road in Sonoma County, California, and I heard on the radio that for every one black man in college, there were 5 black men in prison or jail. Goodness. And for every one Latino man in college, there were 3 Latino men in prison or jail. And so I decided to do something about it and began volunteering in the San Francisco County Sheriff's jail system. That was 25 years ago this year.
Wow, okay. So when did you form Project 180?
It incorporated in 2008, but I first had the idea in 2006. It was at the end of my graduate program and my master's in criminology and criminal justice at FSU, and I just decided I wasn't going to go on for a PhD. I was going to start this program.
So why Florida? Is that because you went to college here?
It is, and I always thought I was going to go back to California because I love Northern California and San Francisco. But I fell in love with Florida. It's so beautiful.
I know that there's a common conception that a lot of recidivism for people that are released from prison. What's your experience with that?
Oh, yes. It's not just my experience, but research indicates that 83% of individuals who are released recidivate within 9 years, and most of that is within the first 2 years. It's from the Bureau of Justice Statistics.
Why do you think that is?
It's very tough. Incarceration is a life interrupter, and you lose everything when you're inside. You lose family members, pets, housing, jobs. If you had credit, you don't have it anymore. You can't pay it off. So you have to start over again every single time. And the guys in our residential program talk about, if you'll forgive me, the effort factor, which is that it becomes so difficult that you just throw up your hands and decide to go back to what you were doing before, even though you know it's not good for you. It's a way out of the pressures that you feel when you are trying to do the right thing and having to climb a very steep hill to do so.
Well, I've been around defendants who were felons for a long time. And back in the late 1970s, the Florida statutes said that the purpose of incarceration was rehabilitation. Then in the 80s, we got hit with all the drug things and the incredible number of people who were arrested for those types of offenses, and they changed the law. And they said no longer will it be rehabilitation, now it's to be punishment. And a lot of programs that they had that were not designed to teach trades and to get them educated disappeared. And then some of those have been reinstated, but It's not anywhere near the level it was before we started getting the drug people in prison. So have you seen much in the way of rehabilitation in the prisons? They come out with any skills?
Well, yes and no. The opportunities to participate in programs that teach skills are fairly rare. The last time I checked, which admittedly was about 5 or 6 years ago, was about 2% of the inmate population had the opportunity to participate in these programs. Hopefully it's gone up since then. But we have a guy who is an excellent example of someone who has come out of the prison system with HVAC certification. He has NCCER certification, which is the best in the country, and was trained very well, went to look for a job in HVAC and actually air conditioning, got a great job, and he makes twice what I make right now, and has done very well for himself, and he's just a great guy. He's doing just superb.
Yeah, you told me when you started up you did something called a media audit.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So this was in 2012, and we wanted to find out who was talking about prisoner reentry. And the person who did the media audit was Lime Communications. Did an audit throughout the U.S. of who was writing articles and what kind of radio shows were talking about prisoner reentry. And I think there were 2 mentions of prisoner reentry within a 6-month period. And so we decided to start the conversation, and that decision resulted in one of the things that I'm very proud of about Project 180, which is our annual lecture series. It's called Strong Voices, Strong Subjects, and it's usually held at Michael's on East here in Sarasota. And to our knowledge, it's the nation's only ongoing lecture series dedicated specifically to reentry topics.
So what are tell me about the speakers. What sort of topics do they have? How do you recruit them?
We choose a topic every year. This year it is the disease of addiction, filling our prisons and jails. So for our first lecture, which is usually in March, we will select a scholar. And so I do some research and find out who happens to be one of the top people in the country talking about that particular topic, and bring that individual to Sarasota from wherever he or she might be. And then the second one is often a panel discussion. The third is usually someone who's been personally affected by
And you've
the
had
topic.
all 3 of those this year already?
No, we have another one September 23rd.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And I know you have a website, and maybe some of our viewers that would like to attend. What is the website?
It's project180reentry.org.
Okay, easy to remember. That's great. So let's talk about how you actually operate on a daily basis. Let's talk about how do you find your clients?
Well, we are very well known in the Sarasota County jail system, and so we have a lot of calls from there. And primarily those individuals, men again, come into our residential program. We have 2 homes, maximum of 6 men in each home. And we will also take individuals coming from state prison through our First Week Out program, which is something else I'm very proud of.
Tell me about First Week Out.
Okay, First Week Out is a program that's really unusual because it's extremely proactive. We will do in-reach into the prison system for individuals who are returning to Sarasota County so that we can proactively prepare for their return. We don't wait until they get to the bus, have nowhere to go, fail, become homeless and impoverished, and then it's very difficult for them, obviously, but also it's difficult for the community. So we try to prevent poverty and homelessness and unemployment by doing our in-reach.
So how do you identify and it's men, so we'll refer to that. We know it's not politically correct, but in this project, on that part, you're dealing only with men.
First week out, we take men and women. It's
You do.
really only in our residential program that we serve only men.
Residential's only, okay. So how do you identify? I mean, DOC give you a list, or?
Yes, we partner with the local probation office. They send us a list of individuals who will be returning or scheduled to return to Sarasota County, and we send a letter to everyone. We also put on the envelope the name of the caseworker or release officer to help ensure that the mail gets to the individual, and that it doesn't always work. Not all our mail gets through.
Okay, so when it does get through and a person says, yes, I'd like to try this, how do they let you know?
They'll call us. We invite them to call us, collect. We always keep money on our phones so that people can call us, collect, since a lot of people don't have the resources to be able to afford that. And we interview them by phone and make sure we know when they're returning. Well, actually, we send them a survey, too, to find out what they'll need. Shoes, clothing, cell phone, job, documents to get a job, like driver's license, social security card, birth
Check the
certificate.
yes to all of those I mentioned.
Exactly. Not everybody checks everything. People are pretty honest about what they need.
Yeah.
And so we start setting things up. If they're going to need housing, and we know that they would be accepted into one of the local halfway houses or even into our house, we line that up for them. We partner with GRASP and with St. Vincent de Paul Incarnation
I'm not familiar
Conference.
with GRASP.
GRASP is wonderful. It is a local nonprofit that will pay for the first 2 weeks of someone's housing.
Oh.
Yeah, they're fabulous. And so we work with them a lot, and with St. Vincent's Incarnation Conference to find funding for their first 2 weeks of housing.
So let's say this prisoner's getting out, and what was he get a bus ticket?
They get a bus ticket. Sometimes they'll get $50. But the problem with that is that if their bus trip is going to be about 36 hours, let's say they're coming from the Panhandle, that money runs out really fast.
Yeah.
So.
Can you help with that, or?
We can't actually. The state provides that at the decision of the warden, and so what we are working on is getting to the point where we will go and pick people up at the gate when they're released from prison, because people get lost on the way home, they get stranded. Sometimes somebody's coming to our residential program and in Orlando decides, oh, I think I'll go to Miami instead. And then we never find out what happened to him. But we can't follow the person by calling the bus system. They will not answer the phone. So
This
we
is like
hope for the
a
best.
Greyhound, or yeah.
Yes.
So let's say they get on a bus. Where do they go?
It depends on where they start, but usually there, I think, is a place to transfer in Orlando and then a place to transfer in Tampa.
When they get here?
Oh, when they get here. It depends on what we've set up for them. So if, let's say this is a person who, we had one woman who came back, she was able to get her own apartment, but she had no furniture. She slept on the floor every night, and we found out about her after she'd already returned. So we arranged for her to get a full set of housewares and furniture and a mattress from Streets of Paradise, which was a wonderful, it's a fabulous organization if your viewers don't know about it already. And so we really tailor our services to what the person needs.
So you really plug into the assortment of agencies and providers here in the community.
Yes, we are beggars on every front.
Beggars, okay. Okay, but I would assume that you want to have a safe location when they come here.
Yes.
And it's probably a confidential location, I take it, or
Right.
not?
We don't share the addresses of our homes or any of the other homes where we might place someone.
Who will you not accept? What crimes would exclude them from your program?
In our residential program, we do not take anyone with a crime against or involving a child, anyone with a sex charge, or crime rather, anyone with arson in his history, and no one with a major mental health disorder, which for us means psychosis, really.
Bipolar?
Bipolar is on a case-by-case basis, and we have a lot of people who have, almost everybody has anxiety and depression.
Right.
So we definitely take individuals who have those issues.
Okay, you have to be pretty careful about that, I imagine. Do you have an evaluation as to what their condition, or do you receive any information about their condition?
We will often get a mental health evaluation for the guys in the residential program. And recently, we received funding from Community Foundation of Sarasota County for our First Week Out program, and a bunch of that money is going toward health. So we help with medical, dental, vision, and mental health care.
Well, tell me about the people that work for you and what their responsibilities are. Give them a shout out. I'm sure they're dedicated folks.
They are amazing. So there are two individuals who work with me in the office. One is Mike, and Mike is our program manager. He and I basically created the residential program together, and he's just fabulous. So he manages the residential program and the financial literacy course, as well as our information and referral service. And our other gentleman recently came to us, maybe about 6 months ago. His name is Chuck, and Chuck is he's just another angel like Mike. And he handles our First Week Out program, as well as our CEO workforce education class.
So when these folks get out of jail or prison, what are the major problems that they have that they bring with them to the program?
Well, as they say, it's an inside job. So the first thing really I would say is the things that get in the way the most are personal behaviors and ways of thinking that are not conducive to succeeding in the outside world. And I can think of a couple of funny examples, but I won't go into those.
Okay.
In our residential program, we deal only with individuals who have the disease of addiction. In our First Week Out program, that is anybody who comes back. And so...
Are they getting out of prison? They come to you the next day or so, and they're addicted actively?
Everyone who comes into our residential program, but are you asking if people can get drugs in the prison system?
Well, that's basically it.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, some of our guys say, it's so much easier to get drugs in prison than it is on the outside because you don't have to go down to the corner. You just have to go outside your cell. And I know that it is something that the Department of Corrections is working hard to combat.
What kind of drugs are we talking about? Crystal meth and heroin?
What do you want?
Cocaine, yeah.
Whatever you want.
So it's that's...
I know K2 was a problem for a while, and, didn't, yeah.
Okay. And I guess fentanyl is a big one, too.
It's terrible.
You test for all those when they come in, right?
We do. Mm-hmm. So let's say someone's coming out of either the jail or we're picking someone up at the bus, and we've decided to bring him into our residential program. So we pick the person up, and the first things we do are to get him a phone, make sure he has clothes, shoes that are appropriate. We basically we buy food as part of our residential program. So everybody pays a program fee of $175 a week, and that goes toward covering about 40% of the program. And we will also make sure they have documents for work. We'll introduce them to employers. If they have family members and the relationships are solid and good, we do everything we can to help someone reunify with their family members, but it is led by the family members rather than the individual.
Let's talk about your housing operation. I take it you would drug test the residents? Or you
We do.
And how's that done?
Mike does that as our person who's over the residential program. We use a 20-panel cup, so we're testing for quite a lot of different drugs.
It's urine testing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. And if we suspect anything or someone's behavior is a little off, we'll also test in that situation.
Well, some of those drugs can remain in the system for a long time.
We just found out that fentanyl can last up to 19 days in someone's system. And what happens is if they go to detox, let's say somebody gets high, we take them to detox, and they might be medically detoxed after 3 to 5 days, but it's still in the system and it still shows up on our test cups. So we don't really know whether the individual used again or if this is just the,
Lingering effects of it.
Yes, exactly.
So you say you provide housing. Obviously, there's not a lot of that available in Sarasota County for people, but how many houses do you have?
We only have 2, and it's a maximum of 6 individuals per house. We don't crowd our homes, but we do partner with almost all of the different halfway houses around. So we're all in this together. We really help each other out.
So I imagine you have to have some house rules, right, for the...
Oh, yes.
You got any examples of what those rules are?
I do.
All right.
Yes.
Tell us. You can read them if you want.
Okay. No consumption of alcohol or drugs. Work a program. Find a home group in AA or NA. Get a sponsor and work the steps actively. Perform service. Clean up after yourself.
I could use that with my kids and grandkids.
I think all of us could use that. We have a messenger group that we use so that people can check in with their locations and report that they are at a meeting. So that's what we use for that and for curfew.
In the first 90 days, they have to have how many NAs?
19 meetings in 90 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you need to have a sponsor by the, within the first month or so. And you have to find someone that you trust, of course.
Can another resident be the sponsor?
No, and neither can Mike nor Chuck, and I certainly can't be because I've never had the disease, thank goodness. So that's a few things, and then everybody has to work, and your chore needs to be completed before you leave the house, which rarely happens. And we just try to keep the TV off during the day.
And if they violate the rules, what do you do?
Well, it depends upon which rule. There's no tolerance for drug or alcohol use because that can set off the desire for someone else to use. And, of course, that's a life or death situation with the fentanyl crisis that we have. So it really depends upon the issue. If someone uses and, we catch them and they're honest with us, we take them to detox and then pick them up from detox and start over again.
You said a large number of the people coming out of the prisons or jails have an addiction issue, but they have to have that disease in order to get into the housing. Is that the rule?
Into our housing, yes. We have been talking about what kind of a structure we would have if we decided to open a home for individuals who don't have the disease of addiction. But really, that's such a rarity because almost everybody has it.
Yeah.
That we're not sure it would be financially viable to actually have that. And all of the housing that we know of in the community is program housing.
Program meaning you have to have an addiction to get in? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so with that many people, I guess you have to turn some away?
Yes. We turn away far more than we can take.
Okay. So let's talk about the housing. How did you get 2 houses?
Well, the first house came to us through a friend of mine who lives in San Francisco, and she had seen me struggling for a dozen years trying to launch a residential program, and she said, I don't want to make money on you, but I don't want to lose money on you either, so I'm going to buy you a house and I'll rent it to you, and it just has to cover the mortgage and the insurance and the taxes. And then a year later, she said, I want to sell it to you. Oh. So we were overjoyed that the Charles and Marjorie Barancic Foundation
They're wonderful.
stepped up, and they bought that house for us, and it has been a godsend. And that gave us a lot more credibility, I think, with other funders. Gulf Coast Community Foundation has contributed quite a lot to that program, as well as the Koski Family Foundation. And yeah, it's been great.
That's great. How about getting employment for these people? How do they go about finding jobs?
Well, right now, it's not so hard. Everyone's crying for workers, and these guys are phenomenal workers. So we have people who are in all different sorts of trades. We've had a couple of electricians, the HVAC guy I mentioned earlier, a couple of plumbers, landscape foreman, had a construction foreman, other guys who work in construction in the trades, roofing, although that's one of the more unpleasant, especially with summer coming up. All sorts of different places, installers, handymen, all sorts of things.
If somebody's watching this program and says, I have a business, I'd like to take a chance on one of these releasees, could they contact your organization?
Absolutely, yes, definitely give us a call. And you can send us a message through our website, which is project180reentry.org.
What kind of jobs do you not recommend that they do?
Restaurant and hospitality is pretty much out. We really don't encourage that, although we have one man who's very successfully been working at a local concept restaurant and recently left and started working for a private caterer who is a good friend of Project 180 and does some hiring. Beneva Flowers is a wonderful place for people to work. David Schul, the owner, is on our board, and he's just great. He hires a lot of people. He's just fantastic.
Who are some of your other board members?
Wendy Cox is our board chair. Pamela Gourmead.
I got to give a shout out for Wendy. She's a lawyer, Sarasota lawyer, and does so much good work.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She gets a lot of credit. And Pamela Gourmead is our vice chair. Joe Malave of Palm Avenue Wealth Advisory Group at Raymond James is our treasurer. Harold Young, who's retired from HUD, is our secretary. David, of course, Christy Nolan, who is known specifically here in Sarasota County and as well as in Washington, D.C. as a terrific governance consultant. So we have some really terrific people.
What is the single most contribution to success that you think these people need to have?
An advocate.
An advocate. And a support system, I guess, that provides.
Yes, and to stay clean.
Okay, that's great. Well, folks, that's all we have time for today. There was a time in this country when we said after a person went to prison that he or she had paid his debt to society. But now many in society today take the view that once a criminal, always a criminal. Project 180 is in business to change this attitude. Many can be rehabilitated. Given a chance at addiction treatment, housing, and steady, honest work, they may have a successful reentry into our community. Thank you, Barbara, for taking on this daunting task. Sarasota County is lucky to have you and Project 180.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
This is Lee Haworth signing off for Law in Sarasota.
For more than 40 years, the Community Foundation of Sarasota County has partnered with estate planning attorneys and their clients to unlock possibilities for everyone who calls our region home. Our motto, Be the One, reflects our deeply held belief that anyone can be a philanthropist and give back to our community regardless of means. Visit www.cfsarasota.org or call 941-955-3000 for more information.